Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Welcome back to the second day of the 11th Global Mobile Broadband Forum. Yesterday, we listened about the social value and business value of 5G. Today, we will continue to talk about the direction of the wireless industry. First, let's welcome Mr. David Wang, Executive Director of the Board, Chairman of the Investment Review Board from Huawei, to deliver today's opening speech, Define 5G, Building a Better Intelligent World. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, friends online, good morning. Thank you for joining the 11th Global Mobile Broadband Forum. We jointly host with GSMA. Yesterday, Mr. Hu said that if you can make it here, it shows that you're really supportive of us. If you even come to the second day session, that shows additional support from you. So really grateful. Today, I'm going to talk about define 5.5G to build a better intelligent world. You may have questions in your mind. We have not completed the construction of 5G yet, and now you're talking about 5.5G. So I'd like to take these 20 minutes to talk about our thoughts on the evolution of 5G and make 5G more vibrant. We say that 5G is changing the world, but how? It looks like we have not seen it yet. And what kind of additional capabilities 5G should have? What the end-to-end industry needs to do to enable that. That is what I'm going to share with you in my talk. 2020 is a very special year. Many years later, people may write about the history of 2020, saying that 50 million of people was infected with the COVID-19 disease, and the superpowers competition was more fierce than before. But for us who work in a mobile industry, we would say that 5G is the year of 5G. 2020 is the year of 5G deployment at scale, and with the effort of the Chinese operators, the pace of 5G rollout is very fast, and globally, 800,000 base stations have been deployed, and globally there are 110 commercial 5G networks. 5G users have been approaching 200 million. We had 2G GSM and 3G and 4G, and the terminals are becoming more affordable and diversified. And the 5G smartphone now is dropping below the price of 1,000 yuan, and 60% of phone shipment is 5G phone. The number of users is approaching 200 million. And within the same period of construction, the user number for 3G and 4G are 320,000 and 400,000 respectively. The achievement is a result of the concerted effort of the industry. The end-to-end capability improvement will result in such a significant progress. And 5G is also changing our lives and work. 5G brings higher speed and lower latency. HD video experience is becoming better. Several years ago, 1080p only accounted for 40% of the content. Now, the ratio is 70%. And phones with 2K display has become the mainstream. And AR, VR services are not deployed at scale yet, and there is a long value chain of these services, including terminal and a network and content. So these new services will drive the capability improvement in the industry. With that, AR and VR may become essential applications in many scenarios. Yesterday, Mr. Hu and Mr. Ding from Huawei and other industry peers mentioned that 5G application in the industries is also very fast, especially in China. All the industries are very supportive to 5G, and there are thousands of business applications and many new business models. We can say that this is a good starting point of 5G changing the world. However, we must not forget that the vitality of 5G comes from its continuous evolution. In the 1990s, GSM started to be put into commercial use in Europe. As time went by, after 1995, we've seen GPRS and edge technology. So GSM could provide data service as well as voice and SMS. And GSM data rate continued to grow at that time. And then WCDMA, CDMA 2000 emerged around year 2000 in different regions around the world. However, these technologies continue to grow their capacity, like incubating HSPA, HSPA plus in a cell. The downlink capacity grew from 384 kilobit per second to 42 megabit per second. And then came 4G. We had cellular network at that time. We started to connect things. So that was 4.5G. MBIoT served as the cellular connection technology, and it was well acknowledged in the industry. Now in China, the number of MBIoT connections is more than 140 million. MBIoT module price drops below $2. That is cheaper than the GPRS module. So this is the first year of large-scale 5G deployment. Before year 2030, it will be the mainstream technology for the mobile world. And we need to consider the lagging effect of mobile technology. So 5G technology may exist until 2040. So during the life cycle of 5G, we still need to improve its capability continuously and make it a vibrant technology over its life cycle. That is my thoughts for 5G. So how will we improve or enhance 5G? First, for connecting people. Connecting people is the mission of mobile. Connecting people is the fundamental of mobile. There are 7.8 billion people in the world. Let's say that our target user is 6 billion. If one person have 2 SIMs, then it will be 12 billion SIMs. And for 5G, in terms of AR and VR, has improved a lot compared with 4G. And in the future, the data rate and the interaction latency must continue to be improved so we can have a realistic and immersive experience. And that experience is more affordable and accessible. And we can interact with each other like we're at the same space and time. Now, the online communication is more frequent. We, however, cannot shake hands with our friends online. So we'd like to change this. We hope that with the changes of technology, we can extend the way we connect with others. That is one of the directions we like to work towards, connecting things. Like I said, in 4G era, we tried to build the cellular network. Huawei's vision and mission is to build an intelligent world, a connected world. To make the world intelligent, connectivity is the foundation. Isolated objects cannot contribute to an intelligent world. In different occasions, we said that there would be a certain number of connections in 2030 or 2040. Well, that is a number of our imagination. But since we say that 5G will last till 2030 or even 2040, then we need to set a higher target for 5G. We'd like to say that over the life cycle of 5G, we want to see 100 billions of connections of things. Chinese operators and overseas operators, when they try to promote NB-IoT, they complain about the revenue being only several dollars or several yuan a month or even a year. If you charge 10 yuan for a connection a year, that is still value created, but connections in different scenarios would have different value. Today, these IoT connections like GSM, GPRS, LTE, WCDMA connections are only 1.3 billion. We say that we want to see hundreds of billions of connection on the cellular network. There's still a big gap. So what can we do to change the capability, the operation model to achieve that target? That is something we should think about. We need all the parties in the industry to think about this. We need to connect the industries. And to do this, we face a lot of complexity. Over the 2 years, our teams work on standards, tried to categorize the cellular IoT. We found that there was not one dimension. Latency, reliability, data rate are all relevant dimensions. So we cannot categorize industry scenarios by one dimension. So we can see that in terms of the scenarios, there are a lot of them: electricity grid, transportation, energy, industrial control. In terms of workflow, we have control over the device, monitoring of personnel and data collection and so on. And there are also a lot of business applications. We categorize these applications into different scenarios based on the latency, bandwidth, reliability, and other relevant dimensions. And then we will see in the next 10 years where and how will we improve 5G to support the target of hundreds of billions of cellular IoT connections. We need to look ahead. We need to look at 2030, and we need to stay humble. Perhaps our expectation or objectives set today is conservative. And for 5G, in some scenarios, we can achieve 10 gigabit per second, but not all cases. 100 megahertz may give you quite a big bandwidth, but not 10 gigabit. Now we want to achieve higher speed. Is that possible? And how do we have more realistic and immersive communications? How to have more real-time communication? That is something we need to think about. Now, there's still a lot more to be done for 5G. EMTC, URLLC cannot cover all the scenarios. And for 5G, a capability lacking is the positioning capability or indoor positioning. And uplink is also a deficiency because mobile technology started from connecting people. It is fundamental for mobile technology. That's why the consideration for connected things were not enough. For the connected things, in a lot of scenarios, we need big uplink bandwidth, and that is a weakness of the mobile technology. How to address that? As a player, or in some sense a leader in the industry, we propose the industry to define 5.5G collectively. Where will we enhance on 5G? Let's first take a look at a short video.
大家或许对这个三角形会比较熟悉。
You may be familiar with the triangle here. Many years ago, when we talked about the features or use cases of 5G, ITUT defined a triangle that is EMBB, EMTC, and URLLC. EMBB is for connecting people, and MMTC is for connecting things. URLC is for high reliability scenario. For EMBB, 5G has improved a lot compared with 4G. And for URLLC, the definition of standard is ongoing. MBIoT is already incorporated into the MMTC standard. The low power wide area LPWA scenario would use NB-IoT to connect 5G connections, but only LPWA is not enough. So the industry is defining red cap. The speed can reach 150 megabit per second with the bandwidth of 20 megahertz of spectrum. Red cap utilizes 20 megahertz of spectrum, and they are also considering adding another scenario with the speed between 200 kilobit per second and 200 megabit per second. But we can see that with only these scenarios or standards group defined, we cannot meet the requirements of diversified scenarios. In order to serve the big bandwidth and massive connection scenario, we propose UCBC. It stands for uplink-centric broadband communication. So you can understand it as the scenario for computer vision or industrial control or for massive number of connections. And for applications that need ultra big bandwidth and high reliability, a new category is proposed. It is called RTBC, real-time broadband communication. There are a lot of such scenarios which need high reliability and real-time communications, especially in industrial control scenario. Another category is HCS, harmonized communication and sensing. In the scenario of connected cars, not only do we need real-time, high reliability, we also need positioning. Today, we use GPS for assistance of positioning, but when the car drives into an underground car park, it's not available. We believe in the next decade, drones will be used more and more. The food may be delivered to you in the future by drones. So unmanned delivery from drones may be a major scenario. That's why we need to have the HCS category. So we turn the triangle into the hexagon to represent these new set of categories of connections, and that represent a general direction for 5G evolution. And then I'd like to give you more details about these three new categories. UCBC stands for Uplink-Centric Broadband Communication. It will bring a 10 times uplink bandwidth enhancement, and it can be used for computer vision, massive number of IoT connections, and this will accelerate digital transformation in industries. So it gives you much better uplink speed. To realize UCBC, we can choose from different technologies like multi-carrier, uplink, aggregation, and massive antenna array, and the technology's choice will be determined later. And RTBC is real-time broadband communication that makes immersive experience possible. It can be used for big bandwidth, low latency scenario. The target is to build immersive experience. The VR, AR, or XR, even XR Pro, and holographic applications will come true based on this category of communication. When we have the target of 1 millisecond latency and a bandwidth target, we can meet the requirement with this category of communication. This is HCS. The main scenario is connecting cars or autonomous cars and civilian drones. The coverage of drones need to be there in low altitude space and also on the ground. By proposing HCS, we can have a bigger market for the mobile technology. And to enable HCS, there are also a big range of technologies from us to choose from. And for 5.5G, we also want to expand the spectrum we use today. We are using 2.6 gigahertz, 3.5 gigahertz, 4.8, 4.9 gigahertz. This spectrum cannot meet our requirements in the next decade or 15 years. It's necessary that the industry think about how to use the spectrum better. FDD frequency is low band, TDD frequency can meet big bandwidth requirements, and a millimeter wave can give you ultra big broadband bandwidth and low latency. And we also need to address the bottleneck of uplink bandwidth. We want to have uplink and downlink decoupling in all bands and be able to assemble all bands flexibly. So from phones, terminals to the network, we should be able to support uplink and downlink decoupling and a flexible spectrum assembly. Then we can meet the diversified requirements of different scenarios. And then I want to talk about AI. As the computing power is more sufficient, we can solve problems we could not. As 5G evolves, 5G will need to make use of more spectrum in a more complex manner. And 5G will be used in more complex scenarios. So in air interface, network side, and business side, we need to have a better and a deeper integration of AI and 5G. So 5G connectivity will become more intelligent. So we can flexibly assemble different spectrum and flexibly support different applications. At the same time, operations and maintenance can be more efficient and more cost-effective. We need to jointly define 5.5G for year 2030. However, the development of mobile industry is always a concerted effort. Why the mobile industry has been thriving so far? That's because we have unified standard, we have efficient collaboration along the value chain. 5.5G is just a name. You can call it 5G plus 5.6G or 5G evolution, you name it. But at the end of the day, we need the parties of the industry to work under the standard framework of 3GPP. We need the industry parties to work on expanding the capability and the application scenarios of 5G. And we also look forward to other industries to collaborate with mobile industry so the mobile technology can be better monetized, and also we can better leverage mobile technology to enable the digital economy and the digital transformation of industries. Our operator friends may say that I have not completed building 5G yet, and now you talk about 5.5G, so that standards are changing again. But I can assure you that there is a smooth evolution between the generations of standards, and the standards will evolve in a way that protects the investment. So I encourage you to collaborate and define the 5.5G for a better connected world. Thank you, Mr. Wang, for sharing your thoughts on the 5G evolution direction. Huawei will work with industry partners to define a better smart society. Vodafone also have deep insights on the future industry development trend. So we will invite Ms. Nadia Benadala, Director of the Network Department of Vodafone Group, to share with us the topic 5G accelerates digital transformation of European enterprises.
Network Director of Vodafone is going to present with us 5G accelerates digital transformation of European enterprises.
Hello, everybody. I'm very happy to be here with you today and to speak about 5G from the perspective of operators in terms of capabilities and opportunities. Now, before anything else, I wanted to talk to you about the priorities right now while we're deploying and enhancing our 5G. Before diving into the heart of the presentation. In the initial phase of deployment of 5G, basically we have deployed pockets of coverage. So it is spotted coverage in the areas of interest where the customers are for a very basic reason. Basically, we wanted our customers to actually start testing the benefits, the advantages that 5G is bringing and will bring in the future. On the other side, for us as operator, it was important to actually start tasting the technology, understanding its capabilities, and starting to learn to optimize it and to operate it. Now, as we move towards another phase of deployment and we prepare for the 5G standalone, it is very important then to actually grow this coverage into pockets into clusters of continuous coverage because we do not want to have inter-core handovers. We do not want to have issues indoor, outdoors, and things of that sort. So it's very important for us to, on the road to having a ubiquitous coverage as we have today with 4G, start actually cleaning up and having cluster of homogeneous coverage. And this will allow us to have a better performance as we deploy 5G standalone. The other aspect that is driving our priorities as we're deploying the network, naturally, is capacity. As we see the growing bundles that the customers are using and buying, and as we see also the incremental offerings with unlimited, naturally the average consumption of each customer is growing. The habits of the customer is really changing. And with the advent also of COVID-19 and with our customers at home and their kids at home, the whole family at home, obviously we see the capacity growing, and we estimated a per 4 by 2025. So the band 3.5 gigahertz for us is very important because on one side, we are able to get wider band, and so we will be able to actually get much greater capacity. But also the spectrum efficiency of technology will allow us to cater to our needs from a capacity standpoint. And naturally, the performance will improve also because we will have greater speed, lower latency, greater reliability. And naturally, this comes with the performance of lift thanks to 5G. The other aspect that is important for us after we have catered to more of a homogeneous coverage and with a capacity is really catering to the umbrella coverage, the same way that we have used 800 and 900 when we were deploying 2G, 3G, and 4G in order to have a blanket underlying coverage. Basically, we will be using 700 because currently we cannot share the spectrum of 800 and 900 because that spectrum is the one that is most congested with respect to all the other bands. And so deployment of 700 will be very important in order to cater to this need, ensure, for example, indoor coverage, which the 3.5 gigahertz spectrum will not offer with the same quality of service. Now, I wanted to talk about, I don't want to give a tutorial, as I know that you have been speaking about 5G during this event, and you already heard a lot about it, but I just wanted at a helicopter level, just give you a few points that I believe are important for us. One is the single core, as the possibility to actually offer 2G, 3G, 4G, 5G, and as a next step, the fixed and the one converged core really goes in the direction of our converged operator strategy and allows us also to have a more of a unique offering in terms of application for all connectivity medium, which naturally is very attractive. A cloud native core, which also will cater to a greater flexibility and reliability. The other aspect naturally that is attractive of the technology is the performance. So the possibility to have greater throughputs, which we will see later, lower latency, higher reliability, greater battery life, will open the door to a number of applications that may require specific aspects of the capability of new technology. And finally, enhance service capabilities, which will really unleash totally new markets and new type of customers that maybe did not require our services in the past and will require in the future. I want to talk about network slicing which will allow us to actually color our connectivity, and I will say a little bit more about that later on. Advanced MEC in order to serve this application that requires us to go all the way to the edge. But also I want to mention the open APIs that will be inherent to the core to the new core. This will allow us to really go in the direction of network as a platform, hide the complexity of the network, while expose those specificities of the core, which will allow us to Lego build the services that we need, and why not even open up to third parties. Now, I wanted to zoom more into some specific capabilities that I have mentioned, because I think that they will be very important as we look at the type of offering that we want to give to our enterprise customer, and as we work towards co-creation of new services. And that is the possibility really to take advantage of the new core, which offers native slicing in a real-time and automated manner. I mean, today it would be impossible to think about the possibility of catering to the need of all the application and the customers in a manual manner. In the future, having the possibility to do it in real time and having the possibility to do it in an automated manner through the orchestrator would really allow us to take advantage of this capability. On one side, to cater to the need of the application, and so to give the best possible performance for that specific application. On the other side, be able to use the resources, very precious resources of the network, in a more cost-effective manner. Now, talking about the world of enterprise, I think our relationship with the enterprise will change, or with business customers will change. And it will no longer be a question of, okay, we build nationwide coverage like we have done for 4G, with 3G, with 2G, and then our consumer customers and our enterprise customer will consume our connectivity services. With all these capabilities, it will be important to have a different type of relationship. We will need to understand in a dialogue with the customer, what are their needs, the type of application, the requirements of those applications. On the other side, have more of an educational guide in explaining what the technology can offer and how it can cater to the specific needs of the application, and co-create together the services that will best fit to the requirements of the customer. And I have to say that looking at future prospect, we need to get out of the trap of pure connectivity, as connectivity services have declining revenues. And the sheer fact of being able to provide colored connectivity in itself will deliver value. And by colored, I mean that when you can offer a connectivity with specific attributes, latency, guaranteed bandwidth, QoS, energy efficiency, that provides great value, since it will enable new use cases, which we all are starting to get familiar with, for the industrial automation, assisted driving, drones, public administration use cases, etc. And so the big innovation in 5G is that it is a multi-service network, okay, which relies on the same underlying infrastructure. And with a combination of radio core and transmission, it will allow different colored connections that best fits our customer needs. And this definitely redefines what connectivity means. It redefines the relationship with the customer, but also on top of that, then after having actually created new value to connectivity, we can build all the applications on top that best fit on the connectivity that we have defined. Now, I wanted to go a little bit more into the key enabler concept and the mix and match or Lego building type of a business concept. So we do have, as we said, in 5G network, we do have a number of distinctive traits. So superior performance, which we can qualify as a downlink speed, which will go from 1 to 2 gigabit per second in the initial phases to grow to greater than 10 gigabit per second, and that's thanks to the greater bandwidth, to massive MIMO, and many other specificities that allows us to really use to its best the spectrum, greater spectrum efficiency, uplink speed, which improves also thanks to the carrier aggregation, and so we will have a more powerful return channel, latency, which we can go all the way down to 2 milliseconds for specific dedicated application. Then capacity and flexibility. In order to qualify that, more specifically, we will have, as I said before, colored connectivity with higher speed for mobile broadband, low latency, QS, for example, for self-driving vehicle, low energy consumption for metering and massive IoT. And all of this through a state-of-the-art architecture, which offers network slicing in conjunction with MEC solution, some edge telco center to reduce the latency, in order also to cater to specific also security needs. So you do have now, if you consider a greater ecosystem or sector that can benefit from 5G, basically you do have the possibility to actually take these Lego blocks and build them to cater to specific needs. I have given an example in the lower right of the slide, which is an example of the connected ambulance that was built in Italy in the ministry trial, which basically we use some of those specificities, the MBB, the URLC, and the massive IoT together in order to build a scenario that will allow us to save lives, since the customer will be able to receive care on the go prior to arriving to the hospital. So this is just a few examples that you have on the left of the slides, looking at the various sectors: remote control, automation, real-time orchestration. You see all of the building block that will actually allow us to explore a wider horizons, looking at the wider industry. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Nadia, for the wonderful speech. Next, let's switch gear to China. Today, it's our honor to have Mr. Chi Yongsheng, Deputy General Manager of China Unicom Research Institute. His topic is 5G evolution empowers industries with digital transformation.
Good morning, everyone. I'm very grateful to the conference organizer to let me share with you our thoughts and practices related to the continuous evolution of 5G in China Unicom. And just now, Mr. Wang talked about the 5G evolution vision. I think it's really impressive. And then I'd like to share with you some issues we have identified and how that insight will guide us to continuously evolve 5G. And I think some of our ideas echo with Mr. Wang's points. China Unicom and China Telecom started the co-construction and sharing of 5G infrastructure September last year, with 1 year of hard work and collaboration. I think we have completed our task quite satisfactorily, and the sharing rate is 95%. In Beijing and major cities, the coverage is very good. The 5G coverage inside the Fifth Ring Road in Beijing is 95%. The co-construction and sharing have given us some technical advantage. Because of the sharing, we can achieve 3.2 gigahertz, 3.2 gigabit per second at 200 megahertz of spectrum, and 4 gigabit per second at 300 megahertz. And we can save the resources and also investment. The total saving is 60 billion for China Unicom and China Telecom. And also we spend the shortest time to build such infrastructure. And we have centralized base systems, and we had some innovation on that. 5GC, we use the centralized 6+2 deployment, so we can support access from one point and service provisioned in the entire network. So the sharing of 5G infrastructure is very helpful to both China Unicom and China Telecom. At this conference, the speakers mentioned that the development of 5G is very fast. However, during the development, we've seen a number of issues. The 5G network now is not perfect, and we don't have very clear and well-defined 5G business models, especially for the business market. And we cannot meet the scenarios requirements in all cases. Also, the uplink bandwidth latency and security requirements are not perfectly met. In terms of O&M, there are multiple networks coexistence, so that is a heavy pressure on O&M. Yesterday, people talked about multiple generations of networks coexistence. We have 4 network modes. To manage them is requiring a lot of energy and hard work. Now 5G joins in. The base station power consumption is 3 to 4 times that of 4G. That is one of the biggest issues we are facing. That's why operators need a more agile, automated, and flexible resource scheduling policy to manage the resources. But they can only be resolved in a continuous growth of a 5G network, and we will continue to push for ubiquitous infrastructure. And we have released Kubernetes 3.0, so we can better push for cloudification, usage of AI, ubiquitous infrastructure, and intelligence. In the face of these issues, we continue to improve the network capabilities to solve them. We work on these 3 areas at the same time. They are network enablement, AI integration, and technology reserve. For network enablement, we make use of smart uplink, and we also make use of MIMO and a massive MIMO to increase the capacity. We also make use of AI to support autonomous driving network and intelligent energy saving. For technology reserve, we would turn to the space-air terrestrial integrated network and high-frequency communication, and open the intelligent wireless cloud network. We are working on these 3 areas together with our partners. Next, I'd like to share with you some specific solutions and practices. I think you have heard about the uplink capacity deficiency of 5G in the business scenarios. Last month, in the Beijing Telecommunication Exhibition show, we proposed a new solution for uplink. The first is a rescheduling of the time slots. By adjusting the time slot assigned to uplink and downlink, we can improve uplink bandwidth. And for the downlink carrier aggregation, we complement it with the uplink carrier aggregation. And the third enhancement is dedicated terminal. So we use 3 antenna or 4 antenna high power terminals. In this way, we can increase the transmission speed and coverage. By combining these three measures in a time domain, frequency domain, and power domain, we can see improvement, and we have done some tests over this solution. By flexibly readjusting the time slots, we could cater for the HD video content backhaul with 20 or 30 cameras. The data rate needed is 1 gigabit per second. So we satisfied that need, and this project and our solution would become a benchmark for the industry. And in the industrial cases, customers also need a very big capacity. So we propose to use the massive MIMO for indoor capacity. According to our prediction, 80% of future services will occur indoors. The digital DAS can only address the big capacity with cell splitting, and it is not the most ideal solution. If you look at the massive MIMO for outdoor deployment, the indoor capacity is really not very good. So we work with Huawei and use the indoor massive MIMO, the massive MIMO, and used the VRU spatial multiplexing to improve the capacity in the National Opera House. The cell capacity can reach 4.7 gigabit per second. And yesterday, our colleagues at the China Unicom also launched the 5G Capital and explained the National Opera House case in detail. Another step we have taken is using the FDD massive MIMO. We can share some carriers between 2.1 gigahertz and 1.8 gigahertz. With this interband carrier sharing, we can achieve 2 by 90 megahertz bandwidth. And we also have a POC test of the 5G FDD massive MIMO prototype equipment. And we see that 3GPP is now developing the FDD massive MIMO standard. So our practice can be helpful in supporting the standardization effort. For the industrial customers, they need low latency. So we propose this tiered, manageable, and controllable 5G UILC capabilities. So we can categorize the networks into entry level, enhanced, and ultimate to serve the diversified needs of industry customers. For consumer services, we can also deploy URLLC to improve the performance of a network. And for the business customers, we use URLLC to provide the high performance and low latency services. For specific customers, we can use the advanced technologies, including the clock synchronization and jitter cancellation as well. Yesterday, our speakers talked about the energy consumption issue. On this area, we work with partners to promote the energy saving at equipment level, energy saving at site level, and network level. We want to push for an integrated solution for energy saving. Previously, we made use of AI algorithm and the big data in the operations domain to save the energy consumption in our network. Our objectives is to have no user service impact, high energy efficiency, and low O&M costs. And we have already completed the pilots of energy saving solutions in several provinces, and we will continue to work with industry partners to promote this objective. In the face of the O&M challenges, earlier this year we released the autonomous driving network white paper, and we proposed an evaluation system for ADN. And we have developed the criteria for evaluation for different steps in the network life cycle. And we also have some quantitative metrics for evaluation. And we take this white paper for pilot in several provinces. We want to promote this to be an industry standard. We will work towards higher adoption of such standards in our networks. And just now, Mr. Wang mentioned millimeter wave. This is also in our plan. With a high data rate, millimeter wave can bring better user experience. And it can also be used for industrial use case when combined with MEC and AI. China Unicom has committed a lot of resources into the adoption of millimeter wave and high frequency, and we have launched the millimeter wave functions and performance tests, and we analyzed the industry value chain. To promote the development of the value chain, we built a lab specifically for this purpose. China Unicom is the only operator partner for the Winter Olympics in Beijing 2022. So for the Winter Olympics 2022, we want to try some of these millimeter wave-based applications. So we are working very actively in this regard. And we have already started some trials and pilots. On the 22nd of October, we work with Huawei in launching the first base station based on millimeter wave, based on different venues, different scenarios. We are developing solutions for the pilots. Our plan is to complete the deployment of the infrastructure for the venues, including the millimeter wave deployment. And we hope that this can be the first millimeter wave application at scale. And then I'd like to talk about the space-air terrestrial convergence for ubiquitous 5G. With this integrated infrastructure, we can promote development of 5G. Low orbit satellite is regarded as part of the new infrastructure, and it is an extension of the terrestrial network. The integration of the spatial infrastructure with the ground infrastructure is in line with the national strategy. China Unicom is working on the low orbit satellite network and also the high altitude network. We work with Huawei to launch services based on low orbit satellites and the ground 5G infrastructure. We have made some trials and tests, and in the low altitude, we committed a lot of resources. It is one of our key focuses. The future mobile network needs to be more open and more cloud-based. As there are more frequencies supported in a network, the resource scheduling and allocation is very important. At the air interface side, we need to have precise resource allocation. We are very active in making the network more open and intelligent based on the network characteristics. We build a fast response operation management platform. The consumer behavior, the political dynamics, and the business dynamics are all changing, and so we need to transform ourselves to better adapt to the environment. And the integration of 5G and the digitalization of the society has just started. The 5G industry needs to be more innovative and collaborate on wider areas and build a more prosperous ecosystem. So I call for collaboration in all these areas to speed up the incubation of AI-based high-speed applications. We also want to build a innovative environment for 5G plus X applications, and we look forward to further promote the development of the industry and to further contribute to the success of 5G. Innovation comes with intelligence. This is our philosophy, and we will work with the industry to build a better ecosystem. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chi, for your sharing of the practice and thoughts on 5G wireless technology evolution. Next, we will have Mr. Ron Ng, Senior Technical Director of Globe, to talk about the mobile and broadband business opportunities under the new normal.
NG, Senior Technical Advisor Globe, and his presentation, Mobile and Broadband Business Opportunities under the New Normal. Please welcome.
My name is Ron. I'm from the Globe Telecom in the Philippines. Today I'll be sharing with you some of the journeys that we've been doing on the mobile and the broadband business since the new pandemic. So, who is Globe Telecom? We are one of the two mobile operators in the Philippines, and we have about 53% mobile revenue shares in the market, which at the moment make us #1 mobile operators in the Philippines. And we are serving up to 3 million home broadband customers. Majority of these customers are wireless broadband customers. And Globe is part of the Singtel group, and in total we are serving about 690 million subscribers across Asia Pac, Australia, and Africa. So where is Philippines? All right, we are in the Southeast Asia. We have a total of more than 7,000 islands in the country. Depends on what time do you measure it. It can range from 7,100 to 7,600, depends on when is the water come, high tide and low tide. And this make a job for operators really hard. To be able to do a fibers to every single island is just close to impossible. So aside from that, we have a total of 100 million population in the country, and major of them are very young. We only have an average of 23 years old, and they love to go to internet. They love to go to social media, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. They spend an average about 10 hours a day. So, but if you can see the slides, there are only 21% of the broadbands are connected today. So it's still a huge opportunity for us to expand our service to a lot of homes that currently don't even have a proper internet. So since the 2017, we have embarked on a journey with partnership with Huawei. We have explored how can we expand our broadband business, given all these challenges that I just mentioned just now with difficult in fiber, into more customers by rolling out the wireless broadband using our mobile spectrum. And since then, we have worked very closely with Huawei to develop the network using their latest massive MIMO, coupled with the CPE, with the 4 receiver, 8 receiver outdoor CPE that allows us to expand our coverage more than 50%. And also the suite, we call it a pre-sales suite, pre-sales, allows us to pinpoint where is the location we have a coverage that we can offer, what speed can we offer, and what type of modems do we have to give it to our customers to offer them the service they wanted. And the next one is that there are some very advanced software algorithms that allow us to operate both the mobile subscriber and the broadband customers on the same spectrum. And combining all of this, more important is the content. We have offered the best of the world, all the Netflix contents, the Googles, and so on to our customers as part of this wireless broadband service that we offer to them. So all of this has been working very well for us. We have seen our subscriber base on the wireless broadband grew during this period from just over 1 million to 1.2 million to more than 2 million during this pandemic. So a lot of these changes after the pandemic. So during the pandemic, as I see in the next slide, we have done a lot of work to support our subscribers, to support our customers. So one of it is to increase the speed of all the low speed plan that we have, the 1 meg, 2 meg, 3 meg plans to a higher speed. We gave them higher broadband volume allocation as well to support them for the work they want to do. And we also doing a lot of network expansion as well, in order to, because we've seen an increase of about more than 30% traffic loadings in the network during this pandemic. So we had to upgrade our international gateway, we had to upgrade our catchers, we had to upgrade our core transport network, we even had to rush upgrading the site as well. And we're also seeing a shift of traffic from the cities, from the key cities, CBDs, into the regional towns, all right? We're seeing as much as 60% traffic drop in the key cities and moving into the towns. And therefore, we have to readjust our network build, our network capacity upgrade to support where the customers are or where the customer were before. So with all this, then we realize that we have new customers we are dealing with, right? They are different, all right? They want higher speed now because they have to support the work, the study, the living, the entertainment, all at home, okay? And used to be, before the pandemic, the broadband service at home is used to be just a backup service for them because when they arrive home at night, it's already too late. So they just need to use it for some basic service. But given the pandemic, during the lockdown, it suddenly becomes an essential service that they need a much higher volume, much higher speed in order to support all the services they needed. And therefore, the subscriber is asking for minimum 20 Mbps plan. The fiber is a new buzzword now. They were looking for unlimited plan, okay? And therefore, some of the works that we've been doing on the wireless broadband has suddenly become a challenge, all right? So since the last couple of months, we've been aggressively migrating our XDSL, WTTS customers to fiber wherever we have facilities, just to ensure that our customer is getting what they really need at home. And we are revamping all our criteria, and we even slowing down some of the wireless broadband offer that we felt that is no longer relevant to the new norm that we are in today. So taking all of this, okay, we go back into our drawing board. Every year since the 2015, we have a partnership with Huawei to look at how we can plan the network year on year. Okay, as you can see in the slides, we have started this in the 3G space, and year on year we changed to a 4G planning, 4.5G planning. Last year we started the 5G planning, and this year we even took on a bigger task by putting on all, we call it an end-to-end planning, that combining the access, the transport, the facilities, the core network, and also the international gateways, all in one by integrating all the demands into a single place, from the consumer broadband, consumer mobile, enterprise business, and also the SG business. So all of this, given in the new norm, we have to readjust our planning criteria, our design criteria. The traffic have shifted, the demands have changed. So we took on this new task in the last 2 months to plan the next 3 years. We've seen that in the next 3 years, we need to aggressively roll out 5G. We need to start aggressively migrating our 3G customers out from the 3G to move to 4G to free up the spectrum. We are looking at how we can move some of the WTTS customers to our fiber facilities as soon as possible and expand our GPON facilities as well. And we are looking at next year to merge both the product from the mobile broadband and the mobile consumers together. And finally, given the easing of the permitting by the government, next year we are expecting that we will continue aggressively rolling out new sites. So with all of this, right, what does it bring us? Right, we need the product, right, and Huawei is offering us or has the end-to-end product that allow us to do all this in the fastest way that is possible can. So in this slide shows that there are 4 major areas that is important for us. I think the first one is having the 1+1 antenna on our side is important. We have a 12 ports antenna plus another one 5G antenna. Okay, that will save a lot of space on the tower. And Huawei also offering the 64TR massive MIMO that is quite a state of the art. The unit, the box has the lowest power consumption, smaller in size, which is quite suitable for the Philippines environment where we have a lot of typhoons in the year. And more important, with the wideband RRU, we were able to reduce up to 7 RRU down to only 3 RRU. That's a significant improvement on the space, the power consumptions, and also the ease of installation as well. On the ground, we were able to combine the rectifiers and also the BBU into one single box with the latest Huawei power solutions. and that helps us to save some space, reduce the size of the floor space that we need to build our site, and therefore translating to saving on the rental as well. Moving on, as you can see on this slide, we are seeing three major challenges that Globe is facing today. The spectrum efficiency, right? And we are running two businesses, and as I mentioned, we have the mobile business and also broadband business into one single mobile spectrum, and therefore we need a way to deploy our spectrum in the most efficient way possible. And the second is that the 5G spectrum is also a challenge. We do not get one full 100 megahertz. We currently only have 60 megahertz of spectrum in the 3.5, and having an ability to deploy this 3.5 quickly into the rest of the network is really essential to be up in the fight on the 5G deployment. And finally, facilities. By deploying 5G, most of our sites now require 25 kilowatt in order to support the power hungry of all the spectrums that we are deploying on the site. Okay, and finally, the site's space is also crucial. With all the solutions that Huawei is providing to us, it allows us to speed up our deployments. Because they have the lowest power consumption in the market, and they also allow us to combine multiple spectrum into a much less number of slots, less number of RUs that we have. So on the right hand side, it shows just a simple illustration of the NR2600, which is their latest product that allows the 4G and 5G into one single box. By deploying the currently, as the early adopters of the Massive MIMO in the network, we have already 1,000 Massive MIMO today that we are actively turning on the 5G in the network. Moving to the next slide. Taking on our learnings in the prepaid Wi-Fi on the 4G, we will be expanding our reach into 5G. So as you can see, the prepaid market is going to be important for us. Philippines is a major prepaid market. And we expect that in the next 2 or 3 years, we will continue to push the prepaid on the 5G as long as the price of the modems are coming down to the right level. So finally, this slide is just showing us that during the pandemic, we have pretty much changed from working in the office, out on the street, to working at home, study at home, living at home, being entertained at home as well. And to the less fortunate society, similar to Joseph, what you see in the picture here, he was not able to get a good service at his house, so he had to travel a few kilometers away from his house to go into the wild where the broadband service is better, so that he can go on the online classes to study the mechatronics. I really admire this guy, right? And you and me has this power to help them or help your society as well in order to get them a better service years to come. All right. And you can see, essential after the pandemic, internet service has become essential service overnight. So finally, my last slide, right? We are here to create a wonderful service for customers. While 5G is the way to go, but we are not forgetting that there are 4G customers and there are even 2G and 3G customers that we are serving. So today we have about 11 cities that we are already activating 5G, but the 4G is an essential layer to ensure the 5G is going to be working properly as well. So therefore, our journey is just starting. Okay, we are here aspiring to serve our fellow Filipinos, and in order for them to have a better service during this pandemic, after the pandemic, and into the future. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Rong An. I believe you must have felt it deeply that 5G is now being widely deployed worldwide. Today, it's our great honor to have the telcos and the partners to share with us what constitutes 5G cities in their eyes. It's going to be a wonderful panel. We have audience accessing it from online, offline. Let's have a look at the 5G city stories.
To hear about 5G stories in 5G cities around the world. 首先呢，让我们有请
First, let me invite to the floor Kevin Pang, Head of Strategic Engagement, Greater China GSMA. Big applause. I will hand it over to you.
Distinguished guests and friends, good morning. I'm Pang Ce from GSMA. Now we come to the 5G City panel section. What is the relevance of 5G City? Perhaps you have your own answer, but you may know that the infrastructure of a city would determine how well the city develops. For 5G era, we're seeing that globally, in more than 50 countries and regions with 5G infrastructure, people become to be aware of the importance of 5G to social development. In this year of MBBF, we are very honored to have the guests who are the practitioner of building the 5G city. Now, let me introduce them to you. The Deputy General Manager of Zhejiang Mobile, Mr. Wang Ding, Mr. Yang Lifan, Deputy General Manager of Beijing Unicom, Mr. Li Ming, General Manager of Development and the Planning Department from Guangdong Telecom, Gan Bing, VP of Wireless Solution from Huawei, Kimo Petty-Kahneman, VP of Business Development from Elisa, Alexi Malaysian King, Head of MTS RAN Department, and Mr. Huang Xin, Global Partner and Greater China President of Frost & Sullivan. Please welcome. Please take a seat. Our topic today is about the relationship between 5G and the city. The rich applications are changing our city. Innovative 5G implementations may vary in the different cities.
那第一个环节呢是城市因 5G 而不同。
So the first section we will look at how city can be improved by 5G. 5G will improve the residents' life. So I'd like the guests here to talk about what benefits 5G can bring to the everyday life of the residents. But first, we will give the floor to Mr. Huang. So I'm Wang Ding from Zhejiang Mobile. Hangzhou is a tourism city, and 5G brings new technologies to Hangzhou. If you go shopping in Hangzhou, we can let the consumers to try the clothes virtually using 5G. And also in the Liangzhu Heritage Park, tourists can put on the AR glasses and see the original landscape of the Liangzhu relics. And also using 5G, you can open the phone app to order food from McDonald's or Starbucks. And because of the 5G network, your order will be picked up very quickly and the food will be sent to you. And also we use 5G to improve transportation and also for emergency response assurance. For example, we use 5G-based drones for disaster relief and for preventive checks. And during the COVID-19 outbreak, the citizens are required to wear a mask. So we have the drones to detect the people if they don't wear a mask. And then also with the 5G technology, we can connect to the doctors and experts to provide medical services for the patients in the ambulance. In this way, we can provide the earliest treatment to the patient, because in this scenario, time is critical. 5G makes the city more high-tech city. So we see that 5G can really help the citizens to get a better life. So I want to ask Mr. Yang from Beijing Unicom, how does 5G benefit the citizens? Well, the changes are happening. 5G is enabling various industries. It will change people's life and society. For the public, I think the most immediate change would be the new video applications. For example, 5G plus VR, 5G plus 8K. And for cloud gaming, it is a big pressure on operators. That's why, since the early days of network construction, we wanted to set the goal of big coverage, large capacity. For the network slicing 1.0 of Beijing Unicom, we defined the products for consumers. We called it Speed Boost. That is something we continuously work on. Thank you for introducing the 5G benefit to people in Beijing. I also lived in Beijing before. I know that 5G can also be used for registration in a hospital. The Xiehe Hospital is a very popular hospital, and I remember my wife using the 4G network for registration in this hospital. When my wife switched to 5G, the registration success rate was higher. And then I'd like to invite Mr. Li from the Guangdong Telecom to share with us his opinions. He cannot join us offline, but we can connect to him online to share with us his view. 4G changes people's life. 5G changes the world. Now the digital transformation enters to a new phase. As the infrastructure provider, we believe that 5G will be critical to economy transformation and improving people's life. Guangdong Telecom is the biggest opco of China Telecom. We shoulder the responsibility of building the infrastructure and work with the ecosystem partners to explore the application of 5G in different areas of the society. We strive to promote the development of 5G and improving the technologies and the capability of our networks, and support the development of the Guangdong, Hong Kong, and Macau Bay Area. We are also pushing for the SA deployment for big bandwidth, low latency, and massive number of connections. By doing this, we can support the development of the economy. We also took the lead in developing the 5G deployment guide as a reference for the 5G deployment in China and around the world. And we are also among the first to deploy 5G networks. We will be application-driven and customer experience driven, and build a customized 5G experience. And we are also very active in building new infrastructure. In the economically developed cities, there is already 5G coverage. We already have a continuous 5G network for the consumers. And for the home users, we are promoting the HD video services for the live streaming and on-demand video for the home users. And for the business users, smart manufacturing, smart healthcare, smart transportation cases are also deployed in Guangdong province. We work with Huawei in releasing the first smart policing as a network slice. And for the smarter government, we also embrace the call to build the smarter governance service. We provide the support for the government to build the smart service venue. And also, we are working on the 5G messenger application, making the communication more efficient, smarter, and more interactive for the application in more scenarios. Thank you, Mr. Li. You have covered consumer service and business service, and you also mentioned the 5G as a global deployment guide. So we thank you for your contribution to the 5G development. And then I'd like to turn to Mr. Gan Bing from Huawei. Mr. Gan Bing is the CMO of Huawei wireless product line. So I think you have a lot of stories to share. The previous guests talked about how 5G changed the people's life and the world, and a lot of ideas and practices have been explored. As the equipment vendor, I'd like to make these few points. First, a good coverage and a high-quality network is the foundation of all services. From the early days of 5G development, we propose the use of intermediate frequency for big bandwidth, and they are 2.6 gigahertz and 3.5 gigahertz. And we also propose to use a massive MIMO to achieve the network with big coverage and a big bandwidth. So from the early days of 5G, we were committed to pushing towards this direction. Only when we combine the massive MIMO with the in IF frequency can we balance the coverage and the bandwidth. So that is my first point. Secondly, in these 2 days meeting, I heard a very good viewpoint. The 5G benefit of the society is just emerging. Every generation of technology lasts for 10 years. So 4G ushered us in the mobile internet era. And next year, the 5G adoption rate will be 20%, as we expect. And according to Rogers' diffusion of innovation theory, when the adoption rate reaches 20%, it will enter into a rapid growth period. So we are very optimistic about a better development of 5G. This 20% figure is really impressive. We didn't expect TikTok to be such a popular app for 4G. Next, we will connect to Dr. Wang Xin from Frost & Sullivan, and he will talk about, in his view, 5G's benefit to the society. Let's welcome.
Be invited by Huawei for this summit. Through my conversations with other industry leaders, I have learned a lot about the latest developments of global 5G trends. As a partner, I have witnessed the 5G industry developing from scratch. But today, the remarkable improvements that 5G brings to our lives still make me feel so excited. And the 5G commercialization is steadily moving forward, especially in urban scenarios. One of the biggest changes for urban residents is that they are going to experience a more convenient life. Under the 5G environment, residents can easily establish more connections with their homes, bodies, cars, and even all of the urban facilities by digital devices. The immediate data exchange among residents and things will further improve their lives. The advantage of 5G will also improve work efficiency by weakening time and space limits. In the 5G era, it will be common for people to communicate and collaborate in a realistic virtual world, helping employers reduce organizational and communicational costs. Moreover, public transportation facilities, such as railway stations, will also utilize 5G to conduct digital transformation to reduce residents' transitional costs and improve their travel experience. In the future, I believe we will see more and more impressive 5G applications adapted to different cities.
好的，谢谢。
Thank you. Let's come to the second round of questions. How will 5G change the various vertical industries? We will start again from Mr. Wang. How 5G change the industries in Zhejiang? The production and the life has been changed by 5G. There are a lot of 5G applications in Zhejiang. In Ningbo port, by using 5G technology, we can remotely control the RTG to improve the efficiency of a port operation. And Xilingmen, which is a manufacturer of mattress, in the past they connected the production line using wired connections, so they had challenges in reconfiguring the production line. Now with the 5G, they don't have the cables anymore, and their production efficiency is improved. Xinfengming is a manufacturer of a silk product. Through 5G-enabled solution, they can identify if there's any defect in the silk material.
And there is a company that is producing the turbines in Hangzhou. After using machine vision technology, is able to inspect the quality of the turbines on site. Before that, they had to send it to a dedicated inspection center for quality checks. It took 3 to 4 days. But now, with machine vision put into use, it's able to check the surface of the turbines to see if there were any defects. It only takes 3 to 5 minutes to come up with a conclusion whether the turbines are fine or not. Now we see 5G technologies being implemented to various companies. So far, we have seen 400 successful use cases of 5G adoption in industries. So I think that now 5G is effectively building up its lessons for benefiting the society. Your answers informed us of the changes 5G is initiating in areas such as HEVs and industrial companies. Next, let's move on to Mr. Yang from Beijing Unicom. Could you tell us your side of the story? Digitization and intelligent transformation is an irreversible trend. 5G adds to the possibility of that happening. Yesterday afternoon, Beijing Unicom hosted a 5G Capital press conference with Huawei. At 5G Capital press conference, we emphasized on building end-to-end 5G capabilities, including the ability to quickly implement 5G and high-quality service assurance, as well as flexible and visible platforms. It covers wireless, bare, core networks, the MEC, as well as associated platforms. So it involves in different functions of the networks. I think it's important for us to focus our efforts on open capabilities. Second, we emphasized on joint innovation and achieving win-win results. If you look at the 5G value chain, the telcos are not the only player covering the end-to-end process, but telcos are engaged in a great majority of the activities. That is why I think that the telcos can and are obligated to take the lead to build up the 5G value chain. According to Beijing Unicom practice, we have achieved many successful use cases. We don't call them customers, we call them partners. One thing in common that we have noticed from these successful use cases is that the successes have been achieved with in-depth engagement of the partners. You talked about the change of wording. It's working with partners instead of the customers, that you built up the end-to-end open capabilities and also platform capabilities. Now, let's turn it to Guangdong Telecom, Mr. Li, again for his story. Huge bandwidth, low latency, and massive connections are features that can benefit the digitization of various industries. Now we are seeing an accelerated integration between 5G and industries. Now we're in the middle of the fourth industrial revolution. 5G is contributing to digital transformation of enterprises and digital data governance. We see great possibilities for the 5G future. Guangdong Telecom is now combining 5G with cloud services to enable industries such as healthcare, education, and such. We are also committed to bringing 5G to smart cities. 5G can potentially improve safety and security in cities. It's able to support remote inspection, and machine vision can help better guarantee safety of ordinary people. And 5G technology can help improve efficiency. For example, 5G-enabled traffic management combined with AI and big data analytics can drive down traffic jams. It can be potentially applied to healthcare industry. For example, we have tested with the second hospital of Guangdong province. 5G networks enabled remote consultation and diagnosis with experts located in Guangdong province, so that people in remote areas can receive good care. We are also working with Meidi and China Construction Steel companies on the 5G plus industry reference sites. It aims to improve quality assurance, efficiency, camper surveillance, as well as the HEVs for the manufacturing plants. Thank you. you have brought up the concept of 5G plus industrial internet. That's pretty impressive. From what these guest speakers are sharing, 5G is now picking up its pace in delivering reference sites for the B2B market and B2C market. China is leading in the 5G adoption in industries. We also see accelerated pace of 5G adoption around the world. And here comes more reference sites. Now we are connecting with the online speakers. First is Mr. Kimmo Pentikainen from Finland. He will share with us the benefits and changes 5G has brought to his country.
Hello, my name is Kimmo Pentikainen. Here in Ilso Corporation, we've been providing communication services already for 137 years. And let me tell you, last 5 years been best ever. Each year we have made best results ever in terms of revenues and profitability. And the reason is that we have been creating a sustainable business model, unlimited mobile data. And the rest is history. At the moment, our customers are using on average 11 times more data than an average user in Germany, 6 times more than in UK, and 3 times more than in the United States. It's the highest usage of mobile data than any other country in the world. And we've been now in 2 years launching to the markets several new 5G services, first in the world, innovating the value, innovating a sustainable future through 5G. Here are some examples. With another startup, Grundium, we've been launching to the market telepathology. And this is not science fiction, this is already what is being used by pathologists. So with add-on value of 5G, the pathology can, independently of time and place, to check out real time, having full access to microscope and review and make analysis, instead of having weeks of waiting from the patient. With the local research university, we've been creating first in the world a solution where you can run 3D models on the cloud and have a full control with the thin client with your 5G phone for reviewing different kind of aspects while designing constructed environment. A year ago we had a vision that there's really a need for remote control of heavy machines. It might take a year, it might take 2, it might take decades before autonomous driving cars are here, but before that, already now, 5G can create significant value in controlling remotely heavy machines. And we were finding a perfect partner, a tractor manufacturer. We contacted, and after we contacted and proposed, let's do it together, in 10 weeks. In 10 weeks, we had a fully working prototype, and also, quite soon, the first customer. And here the customer is been having the high value, enabling possibility to remotely transfer package what might be including explosives, for instance on airports, and take and move it further away for making them inactive. This is value, it's saving lives. Further in remote education, we've been already delivering several cases of 8K live streaming for classrooms. This is something that I'm really proud. We've been now, together with the leading hospital here in Finland, utilizing video robot for COVID-19 treatment, a significant new value on efficiency and quality. So all these examples, they've been created with a strong collaboration with different stakeholders. They were startups, corporations, but most of all, different cities, to find out how to create sustainable future in those cities through 5G and digitalization. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Kimmo. 大家知道呢，芬兰呢是 ICT
As we know, Finland is a leading country in terms of ICT infrastructure. We have just listened to Elisa, a 5G leader, implementing 5G in heavy machine controls and healthcare industry. Now let's connect with a telco in the Middle East. The Gulf region telcos were one of the first batch to implement 5G commercially. Now let's connect with Fahad, the CTO of STC in Kuwait.
As a leader in our market, where we provide products and services that are innovative and meeting our customer expectations, and in the enabling of digitization and digital transformation in our market, and in alignment with our country's vision, we in STC, we continuously focus on our customer experience, bringing the latest technologies for our market, and we enable the digital for different businesses in Kuwait. This took us throughout 2019 to consider deploying nationwide 5G services in alignment with our partner Huawei to serve both our consumer and enterprises in our market. Being number one market leader in the MBB in Kuwait, 5G helped us and proved the effectiveness of our strategy. Looking at the enterprise, since the commercial launch of our network of 5G, we started to have different engagements with our enterprise customers, whereby today, as STC, we provide different enterprise solutions, starting from data center hosting to infrastructure provision, or applications, or different solutions, name it an IoT or different solutions. So part of the solution is the 5G connectivity, or connectivity over 5G. We call it direct access, where our enterprises started to enjoy connecting the last mile of their branches or their point of sales to their headquarters. Throughout the pandemic, we noticed the increase and the demand for the 5G services for enterprise solutions, for different enterprises, whereby today we have remote call centers. Throughout the lockdown, as an example, in the pandemic, we were requested by the authorities in the country to be stationed or to stay at home. So what happened? Some of the banks in Kuwait today and throughout the pandemic, they have their call center agents attending remotely to work, and this helped them to focus on their business and their customers. So today, good number of banks or companies in Kuwait, enterprises, they have remote call centers, and this made their business operations easier. In education, today schools are connected to students, teacher connected to student through the 5G, and this is giving a very good experience from the data and the statistics that we look at. So it is a very good customer experience. Connected buses for schools, for example, was another example of the 5G applications, where now the parents in Kuwait, in different schools, they enjoy and feel safer looking after their kids in the buses, the tracking the bus arrival, bus departure from home. So we see after deploying this network the real value and how effective our strategy was. And thank you.
好，感谢哈，我们呢已经。
Thank you. We have listened to online, offline sharing of the 5G city stories, including the impact on people's lives and on industries. 5G have made cities different. Next, we're going to talk about the different requirements in the city scenarios for 5G. We would like to listen to all your different points of views, how the cities raise different requirements for 5G. We'll start with Zhejiang Mobile. Mr. Wang, over to you. It is true that different cities enjoy different geographic conditions and economic status, and 5G solutions must be city-specific, and network construction is the same. First, similar to 4G, 5G network also need to be widely deployed with high coverage and proper coverage. For example, in the basement and elevators, there should be good coverage. And then depending on the traffic hubs, capacity should be designed accordingly. That's the principle to follow from 2G to 4G. It also is applicable to 5G. And there are three other things that should be done. 5G is both connectivity and computing capacity. So the network needs to go with computing capabilities. Depending on its economic status and the concentration of population and enterprises, we need to deploy important nodes that provide computing capacity so that the edge computing power stays close to the users. Deploying such computing nodes are crucial. In addition to that, fiber deployment is critical because if you have a faster 5G speeds, it's not enough. You need to have a proper fiber that connects with your 5G last mile networks. So the fiber needs to deliver also good speeds of connections. Last but not the least, 5G serves both consumers and enterprise customers, as well as the IoT connections. So the entire O&M system needs to become more flexible and responsive. Different user scenarios call for different levels of responses. And that is why O&M also needs to be evolving to a hierarchical system. One thing that I must mention is the ecosystem and industry. No company is able to do it alone. So we are now pushing for the establishment of a 5G Industry Alliance, engaging over 300 companies. We want to work with them to provide solutions for various industries. And we also have the DICT community involving equipment vendors, software vendors, and system integrators, a total of 1,200 plus companies that work on the various scenarios in terms of software and application development. So it has to be city-specific 5G solutions and the above-mentioned important work.
So for Zhejiang province, you have the nodes for computing power, and you have flexible fiber deployed as assurance. And last year, you also had ecosystem released. And we'd like to hear from Mr. Yang from Beijing Unicom how city raised different requirements. And city does have different requirements. Beijing has a very important political role, and users are very demanding in Beijing. Environmental protection requirements are high, and assurance requirements are high. So these are some of the characteristics. In our customer satisfaction survey, we found that Beijing's users satisfaction of our service is lower than other provinces and regions that don't have 5G coverage. So that really made us doubt ourselves whether we have done such a bad job. I think this may also be true for other two operators in China. That is a special conditions in Beijing. I think there are three other features of Beijing. In 2019, at the end of the year, the number of 5G base stations surpassed 10,000. And in the 5G coverage area, the number of 5G base stations is more than 4G base stations. So the outdoor deployment is completed. So scale of deployment is not our highest priority of deployment. And so this year, our work is more focused on operation. So we'd like to thank Beijing Telecom as our partner of co-construction of 5G. In Beijing, we are the first to complete the full sharing of 5G infrastructure and 4G infrastructure. That is the result of the effort of both parties. My second point is we need to build an end-to-end and win-win ecosystem. I believe I have covered that before, so I will not bore you with the details. And the third, we need to make more exploration into smart operation. And this year, we have three objectives for the operation of the infrastructure. And the first is a good operation, second, a good optimization, and third, smart maintenance. These are very important to the user experience. Society will become more and more intelligent, but we also need to become more intelligent. As Beijing Unicom launches its smart operation management platform for 5G, we found that the network optimization department needs to be changed radically. In the past, that department was built under our supervision. Now they need to have their own goals and evaluate their performance. I'd like to talk about optimization of 5G network. This is a new concept, and I welcome comments of the industry. Really, to be an operator in Beijing is not easy, and I believe the new 5G optimization objective will be helpful for operators. And then let's listen to what Mr. Li from Guangdong Telecom can share with us. In the 5G network construction, there are two characteristics in Guangdong. First, we have a strong push for SA deployment. In 2018, China Telecom released the SA technology white paper, and in the October of 2019, China Telecom first launched the 5G in Shenzhen, and we have launched the smart policing application. In the Tianyi Intelligence Conference, Mr. Li Zhengmao of China Telecom officially announced the commercialization of SA, and with the collaboration with the partners, we also had a lot of innovation in the customized 5G network. And we now have three customization flavor. We also built the 5G network innovation lab with Huawei, and we also work with the Shenzhen Public Security Bureau in launching the 5G slicing for the smart policing. This would help the police station to have a more comprehensive infrastructure. And we also worked with media to employ the super uplink and video data backhaul solution. It is a private network solution. In the future, we will explore more private network solutions to provide better services. Thank you, Mr. Li. I'd like to turn to Mr. Ganbing from Huawei. You have worked on 5G network intensively, so what's your view on how 5G continue to satisfy the different needs of cities? So you mentioned about the different requirements. So from the perspective of equipment vendor, this is very challenging because we implement our products based on unified standard, and we hope our products can be replicated in different deployments. But we understand that the requirements from industries are very diversified. So we need to seek commonality in the differences. Otherwise, we cannot scale our solutions. That's why we need to work with different partners and operators for innovation. We first need to identify common requirements for enterprises in the same industry so that we can extract those commonality to be standards. And then based on the standard, we can extract the common requirements for equipment. Then we are able to provide the right equipment for industry customers. Let me give you two examples. Operator guests talked about the big uplink and smart manufacturing, and that the current detection is based on 2D. It is 720p. In the future, it will become 3D AI-based detection. So that would pose a high requirement on uplink. In the future, uplink capacity may be several gigabit per second instead of hundreds of megabits. So we need to first identify these common requirements. And then for our equipment, we have this super uplink solution to boost the uplink performance. In Hangzhou, we use 2.3 gigahertz and 4.9 gigahertz for providing the gigabit per second experience. And in the mines scenario, we applied the flexible time slot solution to boost the uplink capacity. So this need for uplink capacity is one common requirement. Like I said, we need to seek commonality from different requirements. Then we can scale our solution. Mr. Ding said that 5G applications are moving from references to real implementations. So to make this happen, we not only need to have the solution, we also need to have the right operation and right optimization. So the business services will bring new challenges to our capabilities in planning, deployment, maintenance, operation, and optimization. So we need to understand the requirements of enterprise customers and turn these requirements into platforms and tools in this different process of network lifecycle. We will also provide the platforms and the tools or planning, construction, maintenance, operation, optimization in the business service context. So my point is that we need to seek commonality from different requirements. You know, Huawei is customer-centric, so we will continue to listen to the voice of our customers and will work with partners to enable digitalization for industries. Thank you, Mr. Gan. There are different requirements, but more importantly, we need to find common requirements. That is what Huawei can bring to the table. Next, we'd like to listen to a Russian operator to share his view. They are in the early phase of deploying 5G, and their 5G license is not issued yet. But I know that they are preparing very actively. So next, we will invite Alexei from MTS Russia to share with us his view.
Networks and mobile TV systems. And I would like to talk a little bit about our strategy of 5G rollout in Russia. Russian government still didn't make decision on 5G commercial frequencies and commercial launch in Russia. But meanwhile, we see constantly increasing demand from our customers on new types of services, as well as constantly growing traffic volumes on our network. We expect that in 2-3 years time frame, our traffic will grow also 2 to 3 times. So we decided to modernize our existing networks, radio network, to a high-performance 5G ready equipment to provide our customers with a 5G-like experience and to prepare the network for fast and smooth launch of 5G services. In our modernization, we install high and extra high performance hardware at system model level, as well as at radio, utilizing high orders of MIMO, MIMO 4x4, MIMO 8x8, and massive MIMO in the hotspots. We install equipment in a single run configurations supporting all our legacy bands and technologies, 2G, 3G, and LTE. And the equipment should be capable to operate in LTE in all frequency band. As well, the demand to the modernization of the network is the infrastructure optimization, installing the equipment with a lower footprint and with better energy efficiency. So altogether, our strategy is to roll out a high-performance 5G ready network in existing sub-3G bands and to be prepared to launch 5G services on existing bands as well as in new bands which we expect to be issued by our government soon. Thank you very much for the attention and good luck. I have a question to our colleagues from China Mobile. What is your strategy of rolling out 5G in band 4.9 gigahertz, in band 79, provided that you also have 5G frequencies in band 41? Thank you.
我觉得这个俄罗斯的运营商 MTS 非常有前瞻。
I think MTS really has a greater vision. They are already modernizing the network to make it ready for 5G, and they are already using 8x8 MIMO in a 4G network, and he really maximized this value of this opportunity and asked China Mobile one question. Perhaps they have a similar spectrum with China Mobile. If you already have the 2.6 gigahertz, what is your strategy regarding 4.9?
We want to use it for continuous coverage. 4.9 gigahertz, it's only for spotty coverage. They satisfy two scenarios, for example, like traffic hubs. 2.6 gigahertz bands are falling short, then we would add on the hotspots provided by 4.9 gigahertz. And in the enterprise scenarios, when uplink high bandwidth is needed, we have uplink and downlink slot configuration to provide stronger support for uplink speeds with 4.9 gigahertz. So we deploy 4.9 gigahertz base stations to increase uplink speeds. So both spectrum bands can be used for the consumer scenarios and enterprise scenarios. I really appreciate your sharing. China Mobile lessons may be inspiring for MTS. Now let's connect with Elisa to see how they are doing in 5G network automation.
Level of automation. That's what we have been building for years. So at the moment we do not have any persons working in network operating center. It's all automated. We've been reducing 1/3 of the incidents, while at the same time it will be several times bigger, the mobile data in our networks. And each day we are going through millions of configurations in base stations based on machine learning without any human intervention and making thousands of changes. And that's the key on the area of 5G. Secondly, we've been launching and promoting several milestones of 5G technology, launching them first in the world in our infrastructure. And the business model is intact, unlimited mobile data. That's driving the usage, that's driving efficiency, that's driving revenues, that's driving profitability.
We just listened to the online-offline speakers' views on the relationship between 5G and cities. 5G solutions need to be city-specific, and 5G is changing the cities. We have witnessed the evolution of approaches of communication. Last, I would like to add one more question. What's your take on the next step of 5G city? Please keep your answers short. We'll start with Mr. Wang. 5G will be a component of the new type of infrastructure of future cities. It will restructure the relationship between technology, city, and the people. It will be in harmony. Mr. Yang, we should never underestimate people's aspirations of better lives in the future. If you think that today's bandwidth and latency are just good enough, in the future you will find that your views are absolutely wrong. We will have forever increasing bigger connectivities. That's a pretty typical of the Unicom's view. Next one is Mr. Li from Guangdong Telecom. We're connecting with Mr. Li. Well, Guangdong Telecom will focus on building digital platforms and sensing networks so that they will further enable the vertical industries. We will have both in-house R&D and partnerships. Will help enrich the ecosystem to help create a diverse range of applications. Guangdong Telecom works with Huawei on improving 5G networks and the service capabilities. The massive array antennas, cloud network synergy, and super fast speed uplink, as well as resource allocation, will be the important technologies to support tailor-made solutions for industries. In the new normal, we have seen people's lives and work have been disrupted by COVID-19, and we have seen accelerated pace of digitization. 5G is an important enabling technology for the new infrastructure program and enterprise digitization. In order to adapt to the new normal, we are studying the changes in customer needs. We focused on smart city, digital government services, manufacturing, logistics, financial institutions, healthcare, and education. We have established business units working on these verticals for more partnerships and business. We will have extensive cooperation with industry partners, and we will try and build up the right systems for supply of new solutions. We will further the partnerships with the players in the industry on a new level. We believe 5G integrated with AI cloud will be part of the future solutions that will be an important enabler for industry upgrades. We see great prospects and potential growth over there. Thank you, Mr. Li. Last but not the least, Mr. Gan Bing from Huawei, what's your take on the 5G city's future? In my previous part of the answer, I had already thinking about answers to your question. It's suddenly dawned on me from the novel Three Bodies. In the second book of the three-book sequels, it described a scenario where there are ubiquitous connectivity and displays everywhere. I also envision a case where the bicycles can fly in the air just like how you drive and ride it on the ground. So such pictures have just emerged in my head, and they are my vision of the future. I think 5G evolution is just like the history and the process of urban development. So I think the 5G city program is a very good way to document the process of city evolution. It will also take a record of how we work hard to achieve the ambition. You have very grand and ambitious for 5G cities. Now it's already the first year of 5G city. Where are the real needs? Where are the practical use cases? We're working hard to seek answers to these questions. Finally, big applause to all of the panelists, both online and offline. Thank you for sharing with us their views and experience on 5G cities. That will be all for today's panel. Thank you very much. The panelists, both online and offline, it's a very wonderful sharing from 5G cities. It's pretty inspiring. Innovation has always been a major driver for growth. 5G is not just an upgraded communications technology. It will usher in new ecosystem and bring in new opportunities. Next, I will give the floor to Patrick Walderman, Vice President of Telenor Group. He's going to talk about 5G innovation for industry and society.
5G innovation. 戴好同声耳机，掌声欢迎。
Good morning and good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Patrick Waldemar, and I'm a Vice President in the Telenor Group. In my daily work, I head up the Next Generation Technology Department within Telenor Research. Today, I'll talk about 5G innovations for industry and society. And I am extremely happy to be here, at least virtually, at the Mobile Broadband Forum 2020. But before we start, let me tell you a little bit more about the Telenor Group. Telenor dates back to 1855, and hence it's now 165 years old. It started out as a Norwegian incumbent company, and it has grown into an international mobile operator in 9 markets, having 182 million subscribers as of October 2020. Our purpose is connecting you to what matters most, empowering societies. Telenor Research was founded back in 1967 and has more than 50 years of innovations. Some of them I'll mention now. In the 1970s, we contributed to the satellite connectivity out to the oil rigs. And in the 1980s, we contributed to the GSM standards and MPEG standards. And in the 1990s, we were part of starting up the Opera browser. In 2013, we used mobile analytics to improve the prediction of dengue fever. Since 2012, we've been doing research on 5G, mainly focusing on RAN and virtualization and finding out what use cases that will benefit the society and our industry. So, why is 5G important to society and industry? And what, in particular, is the 5G shift that has come with the 5th generation? If we look back to the first generations, we have seen analog voice coming in the first generation, digital voice in the second, mobile data in the third, and mobile broadband in the fourth. For the 5th generation, there are various new improvements. It's the extreme speed and capacity. It's the industrial IoT. It's the networked society. It's the tactile internet or the wireless edge. But in my opinion, the most important shift is that the communication services are now used to serve industry verticals. And we are just in the beginning of a journey where release 15, 16, and 17 will give us more performance, more functionality, and more features. And when we move on, we will start going into the next generation. And when now presenting 5G innovations for industry and society, this presentation will take us through this transition from 5G to 6G. So, what I plan to do in this presentation is first to give you an overview of the 5G promises and what 5G use cases that it enables. Then I'll tell you a little bit about 5G in the Telenor Group, how we work, and what is the status in each of our business units. As a third point, I will talk about the importance of partnerships and co-creation, and why this is important to enable growth. And finally, I'll talk about the innovation we see beyond 5G and how this will contribute to the society and our industries. So, let's start. The 5G innovations and 5G promises to enable a lot of new use cases, and it all starts with 4G. It starts with an evolution from 4G. There are 3 use case areas: the enhanced mobile broadband, the machine type communication, and the ultra reliable and low latency communications. And for all of these, the standardization are first giving us the enhanced mobile broadband, and later, from 2021 and onwards, it will give us the machine type communications and ultra-reliable, low-latency communication services. And here you also see a number of use case areas that will be served through 5G. It's about autonomous vehicles, it's about commercial drones, it's about consumer services, public services, and then more industrialized services. When it comes to new business, this is also a phased development. At first, we'll see IoT and fixed wireless access solutions, whereas in some years ahead, we'll see more mission-critical communication services. And then it's about how will this develop? In my view, it will develop in 3 phases. In the first phase, we'll see evolved 4G and 5G in spot areas. In the second phase, we'll see 5G in more capacity areas, and we will have a competition when it comes to 5G coverage. And in the third phase, we'll see full 5G rollout and decommissioning of 4G. This phased rollouts enables a number of synergies, both in the network area, in the organizational area, and as well in the area of sharing costs, either between partners or across use cases. So, at the moment in Norway, Telenor is working with several solutions that gives value for industry and society. Here, I have 2 examples of industrial examples and 2 for the society. We're working with autonomous ships, and we're working with aquaculture and fish farming. In both these cases, it's about utilizing sensors and the high capacity part of 5G in the best possible way. Then, for the society, we are providing 5G communication services that helps in the healthcare. This could be sensors, or it could be high capacity connectivity to ensure remote operations. Going forward into 2025, 2026, we will see that the emergency network will be based on commercial mobile services. And this will be truly important for our society. So, let's talk a little bit about how is 5G run in the Telenor Group. 5G is run through something called the 5G Readiness Joint Program. And this is a program where the various pilots, the various work is coordinated across, information is shared, and global units are ensuring that we are running this in an efficient manner. And at the moment, the status of these global pilots and the work that we're doing with the various partners are the following. In Norway and Finland, 5G is commercially launched. In Sweden and Denmark, there are pilots ongoing. In Thailand and Malaysia, we are showcasing and planning. Whereas in Pakistan, Bangladesh, and Myanmar, we are in a planning stage looking for how 5G can create value for society and industry. Of the services that are launched in the Nordics, they are mainly fixed wireless access and based on enhanced mobile broadband. In Telenor Group, we believe that a successful 5G requires an end-to-end perspective. What do we mean by this? Well, by this we mean that if the customer experience is going to be the best, we need to look at everything from the terminal through the radio access network, through the transport network, our core data centers, and how we do automation, how we have an IT core systems, and how we do our customer facing. All this needs to develop and evolve over time, and also target the specific customer needs. For the moment, we don't have that many terminals, but in a few years it will be more and they will have richer functionality. And for the moment, I think around 50% of our transport network is connected to fiber. That will increase in a few years to more than 60. The way we do automation will change into being fully automated in the coming years. And when we look to the customer-facing products, at the moment, they are fixed wireless access and based on enhanced mobile broadband, whereas going forward, as we have shown earlier, a lot of more use cases will be served and a lot of more partners will be involved in serving them, which again will give us the need of working with new business models. Then, I want to stress again the importance of partnerships and co-creation. 5G VINI, or 5G vertical infrastructure, is an Horizon 2020 project providing a 5G innovation platform in Europe, and it's led by Telenor Research with a number of partners, including Huawei. In this project, we are looking at how to prove the 5G KPIs, and we're looking to validate that 5G can be used to serve industry verticals. This project is now 2 years into its lifetime, and it's already produced a lot of good results. However, maybe the most important result it has produced is the importance of partnerships and co-creations in order to understand the needs of the customer and create good solutions for society and industry. 2 examples on how we're working. We're working with the Norwegian Defence, and we're creating a separate slice for the Norwegian Defence for them to run their operations. This is also done using an autonomous edge. Another example is working with Oslo University Hospital, where we're using 5G communication to ensure low latency, so there's a pill cam used for colon cancer detection can operate at its optimum. Also in this case, we're using an edge site. And the important part in both these examples is that it is through the co-creation and the experimenting that we are learning both the needs of the customers and how we should take forward the solutions. My last example here, when it comes to partnerships and co-creation, is about a test we have done together with Huawei and other partners, testing 5G end-to-end network slicing for media broadcast. In this case, we created 3 slices, one for the consumer, one for a private network, and one for the media broadcast. And we were able to demonstrate a live demo showing how you could use a 4K camera to send live broadcast over the 5G core networks with a lot of partners into a public cloud in a successful manner. Again, this would not have been possible had we not worked together, looked at the challenges, and come up with a common framework to provide the solutions. Then, if we look beyond 5G, what do we envision? What kind of consumer services will we need going 10 years ahead? What kind of technology trends will be important? And what are the challenges that we need to look at to provide the correct and good communication services? Now I will take a look at some technologies, some trends, and some challenges, and see how they will influence the innovation going forward in the coming 10 years. So what is driving this innovation? Well, it's trend, its challenges, and its technologies. And here I'll present to you my top 3 in each of the categories. For trends, we are really seeing now that edge and cloud solutions are becoming more and more important to society and industry. And we're seeing a strong IT reliance in the society. But again, maybe the most important trend is the use of communication services for the whole society and for the verticals. The challenges that we need to answer to going and looking 10 years ahead is, amongst others, the UN sustainability goals, and it's the security and trust that is needed for the solutions to come. And in order to be able to efficiently implement this, I think the most important one are the super flexibility in our solutions and the ability to do automation. When it comes to future technologies, it's having this cloud-native architecture that enables this flexibility that are the most important. Terahertz frequencies will give us even higher capacities that we can use for our services. And the use of pervasive artificial intelligence in our operations, maintenance, and administration will enable a more holistic view on how we use AI so that it can be reused and used in a more efficient manner at several different areas. In Telenor Research, we have recently started a project that we call Start 6G, which looked into the technology innovations beyond 5G. Here we'll look 10 years ahead. We'll work with various partners, including Huawei, and we'll seek to find first the new challenges that we should answer to, the new technologies that we should develop, and the important factor again in doing this is how we work together. It's the importance of industrial collaboration. So, all in all, I have presented to you 5G innovations for industry and society. I've gone through some of the promises that 5G are presenting and how this maps over to use cases both for the society and industry. I have gone through how we work with 5G in the Telenor Group and given you a short status of where we are in each of our business units. I have pointed out the importance of partnerships and co-creations and how this is exemplified through our EU project 5G Winnie, and how we work with partners to ensure that we understand the needs and that we are able to produce the solutions that are efficient for the customer. And finally, I've looked into the beyond 5G and how innovations beyond 5G will be important for the industry and society. Thank you for having listened to me on this presentation. If you have questions or just want to engage with me, please come in contact. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Patrick Waldemar, for the wonderful sharing. Huawei's wireless business has never stopped its efforts to innovate in technologies and how to build a simplified 5G network. Let me hand it over to Mr. Yang Chaobing, President of Wireless Solution of Huawei. He's going to talk about 1+N building simplified 5G network.
Distinguished guests, good afternoon. With the special conditions of this year, it is really a luxury to have everyone here and to convene a conference. And I thank you for attending this forum, and I think this shows your confidence in the industry and confidence in Huawei. Thank you. There are 1,000 hamlets in 1,000 people's eyes. Every user has a different view on 5G. Inside and outside our industry, everybody has their own understanding of 5G. Some of them may be talking about the 5G at the moment or the 5G in 10 years' time. 5G is constantly evolving, and this is the first year of large-scale 5G commercialization. And in the next decade, the hundreds of thousands of experts and engineers will continue to promote the development of 5G. So are our operators, and 5G has just started. The 5G networks will continue to evolve in the next decade. They will become higher quality and will satisfy the requirements of more industries. We believe that 5G networks must satisfy the requirements of connecting industries, connecting things, and people. These are the three major categories of connectivity. But at the same time, we see the different types of connectivity have different requirements on the networks. For connecting people, there are two major needs, just like 2G, 3G, and 4G. This connectivity needs to be ubiquitous. The experience needs to be consistent, and coverage is the most important factor. For connecting people, 5G must provide a wide enough bandwidth that is differentiated from 4G. If the experience is only 30 or 50% better, it cannot be called a new generation. It must be a 10 times better experience to deserve that. And for connecting things, there would be difference as well. The new connectivity need to support hundreds of billions of connections, like Mr. Wang said. For this type of connections, the energy consumption must be low enough in the terminal. The cost of terminal must be low enough to support such massive number of connections. And then for the industries, they prefer the precision positioning capability, high reliability, ultra low latency, and a big uplink bandwidth. So these different requirements, some of them are the requirements for the entire network. For example, the connectivity for people and for things must be considered comprehensively in a holistic approach during the network planning and construction. But for these industrial needs like the big uplink and ultra low latency, they are only requirements of parts of the network. If this needs to be provided across the every corner of the network, no operator can afford it. So we need to distinguish what requirements apply to the entire network, what only applies to parts of the network. Then we can maximize the value of network. We believe in the future, 5G network will have the feature of 1 plus N. One is the national continuous big bandwidth foundational network. Big bandwidth is the foundation for all kinds of connectivity and is the on-demand overlay capabilities of different dimensions to satisfy the needs of different industries. For example, the N can be low latency, precision positioning, high reliability, big uplink, and connected cars. Connected cars don't need a network-wide capability, just like our meeting room doesn't need that. So for different industries and different application scenarios, different network features can be added. So this would be the characteristic of future 5G network 1 plus N. Most carriers have 5 or 6 frequency bands, and some of them have more than 10 frequency bands. So we must think about what frequency bands we use for the foundational network. If we review 2G, 3G, and 4G, all the operators use one frequency band for the foundational coverage. Take China Mobile as an example. It is the biggest operator in the world. It has the biggest number of users and physical base stations. In 2G, they mainly focus on 900 and supplemented with the 1800, and 3G, and they use the higher bands for major coverage and lower bands as the supplement. Similarly, for 5G, operators need to think about what frequency band to be used for the foundational coverage. And there are several requirements to this frequency band. First, it must provide this generationally better experience. So it means you must have sufficient bandwidth on this frequency. Otherwise, you won't be able to provide significantly better experience. And then the cost per bit of network service on this spectrum must be low enough. If we want to achieve these two objectives, including reducing the cost per bit by 10 times, then we don't have a viable business model. On top of that, there are the spectrum resources like a millimeter wave. It cannot be used across the entire network. It does not have good penetration capability. It can be blocked by a tree. So this means millimeter wave can only be used in certain scenarios as a supplement. In a 5G era, there will be another type of frequency bands to be used. Although at the moment, none of the country has released this spectrum, what we call the SUL spectrum. And various speakers talked about the importance of uplink. So that is our expectation on the regulators. For the building of connected everything, we need to have the issuance of SUL spectrum. However, some operators already have some TDD spectrum that can be used for SUL, super uplink. And then for FDD spectrum, how does it complement the foundational frequency to improve the network's capacity and provide low latency in some scenarios? That is the positioning of that band. And TDD massive MIMO has become the industry consensus. Now that the bandwidth is very big, so we need to have a big enough capacity as well. Massive MIMO provides big capacity. In major cities around the world, operators who have deployed TDD massive MIMO on a big frequency bandwidth, their performance of user experience is 10 times better than 4G. And TDD massive MIMO is a new thing. Massive MIMO is different from the past technologies. When 3G and 4G are commercialized around the world, it means that all the operators have a similar speed at their networks. The peak rate can be 150 megabit per second, and for user test, it may reach 60 or 70 megabit per second. But for massive MIMO, it can work in 5G mode or 4G mode, and some vendors have not mastered the core technologies and algorithm of massive MIMO. We have some data from the test in a European operator network. Using the same iPhone 12, the performance on Huawei network for a single user is 60% better than the competitors. And for the multi-user MIMO, the experience is 2 times better. Previously, we used a Huawei phone on Huawei network for test. People thought it was unfair. This time we use iPhone. So for massive MIMO algorithm, we will continue to provide the AHR algorithm to check the type and the model and capability of the phone automatically to provide the better experience for users and reduce interference. Our speakers talked about the importance of uplink. We need to build a continuous TDD network on C-band. When we have this deployed, we find that the coverage bottleneck is in uplink, not downlink. For TDD massive MIMO, operators usually have equipment of 240 watt or 320 watt of transmission power at the downlink. However, what is the transmission power of phones? It's 200 milliwatt. So the base station transmission power is 1,000 times that of the phone. So the bottleneck is in uplink. The bottleneck of coverage is in the uplink. So we have researched for many years and proposed the uplink and downlink decoupling technology. China Mobile called it super uplink technology. China Unicom called it a smart uplink. China Telecom called it a gigabit uplink. And Vodafone called it supplementary uplink. Everybody has a different name, but the core concept is the same. It's about addressing the imbalance between uplink and downlink for TDD massive MIMO at a big spectrum bandwidth. And by decoupling uplink and downlink, we can also have a bigger downlink coverage as well, because the uplink uses the TCP protocol. So we provide this solution to assemble different spectrums, like a 3.5 or 3.7 can be used for the decoupling with the 1.8, 2.1, and 700. 2.6 can be used together with the 1.8, 700. 4.9 can be used with the 2.3 gigahertz. And the terminal providers already support these kind of combination of spectrums. Only one of them cannot. And here is a Blade AAU product series. In China, maybe this is not a problem, but in Europe, we have done intensive research. 30% of base stations are not ready for 5G deployment because these sites, every operator only has one antenna slot. That's why we developed this Blade AAU product. It is being deployed at scale in Europe. In January 2019, we had a launch in Beijing. Randing and Richard Yu were there with me, and I said that in 2 years' time, no other vendor can produce such product. And now only 22 months have passed. We can still wait for another 2 months to see if my claim is valid. This year, we made another technical breakthrough based on the past AAU of 32T. This year, we released the 64T Blade AAU that can support all these spectrum. So one single antenna can support massive MIMO and can support all the frequency at sub 6 gigahertz range. And we also developed the transparent antenna technology. The antenna cannot be installed back to back. Our technology enables the antenna to transmit the signal past the antenna right in front of it. FDD massive MIMO is a challenge for the industry in terms of standardization and for engineering, because the TDD channel uplink downlink is symmetric and it's duplexing. But for FDD massive MIMO, it is very difficult technically. And still, we have the FDD massive MIMO for 1800 and 2100. The thickness is less than 500 millimeter. With FDD massive MIMO, compared with the 44R, the capacity can be improved by 3 to 4 times. In China, the spectrum planning is good. China Mobile has 2.6, China Telecom and Unicom has 3.5, and they have a wider spectrum bandwidth. But in a lot of countries, the C-band spectrum is not issued, and some operators only have 30 or 40 megahertz of the C-band spectrum. So FDD massive MIMO can help them to solve the uplink and downlink problems at the same time. And then let's take a look at the end. For the spectrum allocation in countries, they don't have this holistic approach. The spectrum planning is good in China, but that is a unique case. In other countries, they just issue the spectrum band one by one, 800, 900, and then 700. And then every operator only got 10 megahertz or 20 megahertz of this single frequency band. So in many countries, the spectrum allocation is highly fragmented. Every operator have one segment of the frequency band in a bigger segment of band. So this will be challenging for network deployment. So we need to provide a competitive solution to cater for this issue, so that operators can get a bigger competitive advantage. This year, we will provide the Blade Pro product. In the past, one frequency band needs one RU. Now, we only have one module for IR and one module for the low frequency, including 700, 800, and 900. Some operators have 10 megahertz of each frequency band, for example, 10 on 700, 10 on 800. They only need one module. Similarly, we have one module capable to carry 1800 and 2100. And then the weight restriction is 25 kilogram in Europe, because if the module is heavier than that, you need to have a crane to do that. And if the module is lighter than that, you only need the engineer to carry the module and moving up to the tower using the elevator. So this solution can help operators to simplify the deployment, deploying from 3 boxes to 1 box. For most countries, they don't have sufficient spectrum resources, so they try to do everything they can to improve the capacity for 4G network and 5G network. Here we provide this multiple channel solution or flexible channel solution. You may think that ATAR RU was used many years ago, but that was under TDD mode. Now it can work on FDD mode. When the RRU works on 4G, it can support 4 sectors, 6 sectors. But the antenna is most critical of the support of more sectors. So this year, we would officially launch the digital antenna. You can change the transmission of the antenna by adjusting the software. So it is a software-defined antenna. If we combine ATA-RRU with the software-defined antenna, we can address the 4G capacity problem. And in the future, we know that 4G standard design is different from 5G. The 6-sector cell for 4G has a better performance, but 5G base station must have 8-sector because there is a beamforming for 5G. So 4G can work on the 6-sector, and 5G can also have the right configuration based on this solution. And along the highways, we can split it into 2 sectors. In some rural areas, if you don't need such a big capacity, one module can support both 3-sector and 4-sector. For small cells, they have always been the focus of carriers in all generations of technologies. And the small cell for 5G area will be different from that for 3G and 4G. The big bandwidth is usually on the TDD spectrum, so the base stations need to synchronize with each other. For the 4G era, integrated small cell cannot work for 5G. So the small cell will have the form of a RRU in a 5G era. We don't need the satellite to synchronize the sites. Like Mr. Yang in Beijing Unicom said that in Beijing, the number of macro stations is more than that of 4G. However, 5G network deployment is about seamless, continuous coverage and experience. That's why they need the pole sites to supplement the macro sites for the blind spot coverage and the hotspot capacity. And these pole sites and the macro sites must be coordinated in order to reduce interference. For indoor scenario, because the macro sites are using massive MIMO, so the user experience as a result will be very good. And indoor venues, without massive MIMO, the experience might be worse than outdoor. So the indoor massive MIMO will become a must. From 2G to 4G, it's clear as long as you have indoor coverage, the experience must be better than outdoor. But for 5G era, if you don't have the indoor massive MIMO, your indoor experience may be worse than outdoor. So we are working with China Mobile and China Unicom in the beta test. We are ready to do the commercial deployment, and the LAM site will be used in a lot of industrial scenarios. So LAM sites should also have a uplink capability. So all our LAM sites support uplink and downlink decoupling, and to better support operators to get into the vertical industries, we also provide high precision positioning. We can support a meter level precision with 4G coverage. And our speakers also mentioned that the O&M of networks will be more complicated because for a sufficiently long period of time, operators will have the coexistence of 2G, 3G, 4G, and 5G, although 2G and 3G will gradually be phased out. But it does not happen overnight. It takes time. For the business services, the network capability deployment on demand, that's something we need to think about. And the regulators becoming stricter with the EMF. And then the energy consumption is also a big concern. We'll need to consider the user experience when we address energy saving. We need to consider uplink, downlink, and bandwidth and the latency for optimizing the network. And then slicing. Slicing also needs to be taken account when we design the network. The network in the future will have the automation capability. Now we will have some partial autonomy capability in the networks, at least for the moment. This is the differentiated capabilities we have when we help the operator to develop the home broadband service. We found this issue. When a mobile user walks into the store of an operator and asking for a broadband service, a fixed broadband service, the operator cannot answer whether they can or not. So we are not saying that by buying a CPE, you can provide this fixed wireless access. The operator must know if there is a coverage to the user's home, if the capacity is enough to provide that service. Similarly, for the business markets, an enterprise will come and talk to an operator, and an operator need to find out the coverage there and find out the requirements of the industry this company is in. So this operator may need the additional features, the end features. So as to get more insight, so the operators need to get this unified infrastructure to answer these questions. Energy saving. In the past, we used the shutdown function for energy saving. Operators build their base stations not to shut down, not for shutting down their base stations. So the most important thing for energy saving is to provide a good user experience while saving energy. So you need to basically know when and where to shut down what. That's why we have this Power Star solution. In China, we have done the beta test with the Chinese operators. Here we have one example. When the network traffic is growing at 10%, we can still achieve the 15 EMF requirement. The future network will have the 1+N characteristic. There would be one high bandwidth fundamental network for ubiquitous connectivity, and will continue to provide a blade AAU enhancer product and the FDD massive MIMO product. And for the big bandwidth multi-sector requirements, we will release a new solution to meet operators' needs. And for smart O&M, for the home users and the enterprise customers service, we will also provide new solutions. to help operators to expand to more industries. Thank you for your time, and I sincerely invite you to join us in next year's MBBF. We don't know how COVID-19 will develop in the future, but our arrangement will be decided in 2021. But thank you anyway.
谢谢，非常感谢。
Thank you for your elaboration on the 1+N network capabilities. So this is the end of the keynote session of the 11th MPPF. And thank you again for your participation and listening of the business value and technological innovation of 5G. Next, I'd like to invite all of you here to come onto the stage for a group photo.
All the guests to the stage to take a group photo together to capture this memorable 2020 NBBF. Please come to the stage. 来，请我们在场的嘉宾都来到舞台上好吗？